Vantage Point has given NBN a scary set of cards, some really interesting ones. One of them is like my favorite card of the set, just about. So, yeah, let's just get straight into it. First up is a crazy one. I would say one of my favorite arts of the entire set. Look how ominous this one looks. Editorial Division is a new ID that says the first time each turn you take a bad publicity, you may search R&D for one non-agenda black ops, grey ops, or liability card and reveal it, and then you add it to HQ. So it tutors for a scary card, specifically these subtypes, and I kind of hate that it has to list three different subtypes. I don't particularly like cards that are just like a slew of keywords. And this card is perhaps the biggest offender of like, you take this keyword bad pub, you search up on NRDB what of these keyword cards you can put in your deck, and then you put them in. But effectively, black ops and grey ops are like basically oppo and end of the line. And liability is a new keyword they made up for Vantage Point, which was illicit, which just means anything that can like add bad pub or anything that interacts with bad pub is a liability card, including stuff that was not previously a liability card. Those used to be illicit. They're not illicit anymore. They're just liabilities. My take on this is that this is a crazy inelegant decision to make, but that's probably another discussion. It is very thematic, as something that is about to give the corp a bad pub or has the potential to do that is a liability, and I think that works really well, and I would have less of an issue with that if it was the case the whole time. But now all my cards that have illicit on them, I just need to like, if I am playing this ID, and you just tell people, oh, this doesn't say it's a liability, but it actually is a liability. I just printed it before they decided it was. So I don't like that. But what did the card actually do? Well, it asks that you kind of take a bunch of bad pub and then tutor for your most powerful punishment cards, because most of the grey ops, black ops cards are like punishment cards. And a lot of the time that means it's going to be oppo research to give the runner a bunch of tags, and end of the line, which is a lot of influence, but if you're not doing end of the line, you're doing basically end of the line adjacent stuff with a different set of cards. I'm not such a believer in this not because those cards are not insane. Oppo Research is still fantastic, obviously. Playing end of the line in NBN is going to be a thing forever, probably. The reason I'm not such a big fan of this is that it requires you to be giving any amount of bad pub to the runner. And while you can work hard to create board states where bad pub doesn't matter, I think people are overestimating how possible that is. Bad pub is seriously a big downside. Now, they do get a couple of ways to remove it, which I will show you. So you don't have to actually face the consequences of what you're doing sometimes. But I've played against this one a tiny little bit. And by just playing very slowly and carefully, the core player was kind of just looking at me like, no one else was this rich. Like, how do you just not have any money spent and you're just gaining credits every time you do anything? It's like, well, I'm playing Clean Getaway. I'm going through all your ice for the bad pub that you gave me, and then I still get the money at the end, so it's fine. So yeah, there's a few different packages you could put into this deck. You could get your measured responses, you could get your end of the lines, you could get like an unleash combo. There's a lot of different things you could do, but they all do require you to be playing bad pub cards that you really don't want to be playing. The only bad pub card that you would consider playing in a normal deck would maybe be Piranhas, because it's a big end of run ice that MVN is so desperately in need of. But even that, you weren't really running Piranhas, even in like Nebula, which was also a kill deck. So you're definitely running seriously suboptimal cards in this deck to make this make sense. And the kill package, I think you can draw it very consistently, but the runner also is given a lot of opportunity to counterplay it. Nebula might be just a better home for very similar decks. and you don't need to run these bad pub cards. So I'm going to say this is actually like a 3-star card. I think it is scary. I think it's going to get you a lot of wins against runners who are not well prepared. You don't know exactly what to expect. But I think a well-prepared runner will be able to take advantage of the bad pub that they get, even if you're trying to launder it away. And I think that this whole bad pub thing is just offering the runner too much counterplay. I think a good player will be able to diffuse this bomb. And it is a bomb. Like, you are adding so many end of the lines to your hand if you want them. It's an interesting card. I don't like the keyword soup. I don't like this kind of design, but this one is pretty interesting. Witch Hunt is an agenda to go with this ID and this package. It's a 4-2, so that's immediately tough. Not because NBN can't score 4-2s, but because it's kind of tricky to. Like, they don't have a Lacosta grid, they don't have a seamless launch, so you have to be doing Hollow Man. And Hollow Man is great, but it's also quite expensive. So what does this do? When this is scored or stolen, you take a bad pub. So people are going to be putting it in their Editorial Division decks, of course, because it says bad pub on it, right? When your active phase ends, if you score this agenda this turn, removal tags give the runner 3 tags. Now that is an absurd number of tags. 3 tags. Crypto Crash saw a fair bit of play. Worth noting that going into this meta, Epiphany was really good in the last meta. Underplayed, very strong deck. People will tell you that it's a skill issue to lose to that deck. It's not. It's genuinely just good. It is also a skill issue sometimes, but this one is not for that deck. So that's immediately like, okay, so it doesn't go into the best NBN deck. Does it go into this new Editorial Division deck? Probably. But to me, this is such a high rolly card. Like, yes, if you score this early, it's a devastating amount of tempo to hit. You know, it's better than Crypto Crash, because if the runner doesn't have 7 credits, Crypto Crash is less good, and 3 tags is probably almost all the time going to be more impactful than -7 credits, and that's, -7 credits is a lot. The issue is this: if it's scored, if it's stolen, it also gives you the bad pub, which, unless you like the bad pub, like taking a bad pub is strictly good for you, like maybe you could say that's the case in Editorial Division, that's fine. But I think it's not fine. I think if you're trying to win consistently, and there's a chance that the runner just jailbreaks your R&D, grabs a Witch Hunt, and you take a bad pub on turn 1, you're actually not going to win very consistently anymore, because you took your bad pub too early. The runner's going to print themselves so much money. So not only did they steal 2 points, and you don't have that agenda to score anymore, you just gave the runner loads of free money. So I think that this card is too inconsistent. You're going to have games where the runner just like turn 1 runs your HQ. Okay, you can see a single. Oh, they took the Witch Hunt. GG. They just have, an extra credit every turn for the rest of the game. And that's too much of a downside. I think that this is like a 2-star card, actually, even though the upside of scoring it is crazy. And it can set up into kills, it can set up into editorial stuff. I think even Editorial Division might consider this being too wonky, being too lopsided. Because it will just, if you score it, you could blow the runner out. But if the runner steals it, which can happen earlier and more consistently, I think, you are going to get blown out. And I think that's too bad of text to be on a 4-2. Magistrate Revontulet is an executive like Fut. Fut John was a incredibly warping, powerful Jinteki card for asset decks. This one costs 1 more to res, also 3 to trash. And rather than doing damage, it says, as an additional cost to steal, the runner must pay 3, and whenever you score, the runner loses 3. This is good. This is a very strong card, because it goes into a deck that we already know is going to be strong, which is Epiphany. Epiphany doesn't want to touch bad pub, definitely, because they run a lot of assets, and bad pub gets better the more assets you run. But Magistrate is right up their alley, because they love keeping the runner broke. They love scoring agendas and having that be like crushing. And they love just installing things and that cost 3 to trash and just saying that that's pretty good to do. So I think I rate this very, very highly. I think this is a 5-star card because I think Epiphany will continue to be a top tier deck. I think this slots very nicely into it. In fact, might even improve some of the matchups. Actually, that might not be true. I think this will make the matchups that were already good totally insane. And the matchups that were bad probably remain bad. Like if you're up against Lou or some really good asset trash, this doesn't really help you. But the matchups that were good are now going to be like disgustingly good. The only reason I think this won't see much play outside of that, unfortunately, is because it is 4 influence. So while I'm definitely going to be experimenting with it in other asset decks, in other small agenda decks, I think like how FUT didn't see much play despite being crazy, like outside of Alka. Magistrate also won't see much play. It's just too much influence to put on an asset you might not draw. But yeah, keep an eye on this one because Epiphany is going to be brutal. Nihilo Agent is a 1 to res 3 to trash asset that is probably the strangest set of words in NBN at the moment. When you res it, you put 3 counters on it. So it's 3 charges. This will rarely matter. When your turn begins, you remove a tag and take a bad bob. So you remove a tag and also remove a bad bob. When your turn ends, you give a tag and take a bad bob. So what does this do? Well, it is a way to remove a bad pub, is one thing. In that, if you've taken a bad pub, you can play this, you can not res it on your turn. You can wait until the runner turn ends. If it's still around, you can res it. If they're tagged, they remove a tag, but oftentimes they won't be tagged, and you can pull away your bad pub. Then, to prevent it from giving the bad pub back again, you can like over-install it. And genuinely, I think that's actually possibly the best use case for this, which does not perhaps speak very highly of what it can do. Okay, but there's other uses, right? There's a lot of ways you can use it. You can res it on your turn, give the tag. Perhaps you have some effects that matter them having a tag on their turn, so they have to remove it before they start interacting. And then your turn begins, and you get to remove the bad pub that you gave them while still getting to keep the value that you gave them a tag. I mean, it doesn't really make much sense, does it? I don't really see many cards that, like, if the runner is tagged on their turn, do something. There's a few pieces of ice that get a bit better, but I don't think you'd run a card for this effect. So what else can you do? Well, you can do all sorts of things, right? You can trigger your Editorial Division 3 times if they just leave this up. And then you can draw all of your Oppo researches and all your end lines, and then you can like YDL for lots of value. Yeah, you can do that. You can run a whole card that just toggles your bad pub on and off, and gives the runner complete control whether they keep or lose the bad pub. But I think it's like obviously for the Editorial Division deck, but the Editorial Division deck does not really want very many assets that aren't like crushingly powerful, and just procking Editorial Division text a couple of times is actually not that much effect for a card. You could have just drawn cards with this effect, like with this card slot. So even though it does so much and there are so many different use cases for it, I kind of think this is a 2-star card, surprisingly. I think there's a lot of experimentation that will happen with it for sure because it is so strange. One of the things that you can do, which is legitimately strong, is you can play this in Synapse Big Oppo, so they have 5 total tags. Then when they remove one of them, you install a card from your hand over-installing on this Nihilo Agent. And that means that you don't get the tag removal effect that comes with it. And even if they quadruple remove, you still stick a tag, and maybe you can kill them off that or win off that or something like that. And that might be strong. Hard to say. It's a bit different to what Synapse has done before, but maybe it's fine. Overall, I'm going to cautiously say that deck won't be whoppingly powerful. They might just be on Hana or something like that and immediately just turn off that strategy. So yeah, I'm going to say this is only going to be experimental with and isn't going to make it into the best version of the best decks. Grubber is an ice that says end the run in NBN. Wow, we got one. Hooray! NBN has been really struggling with ice that, if you're not running loads of tag punishment, doesn't do anything. And it's been kind of annoying to me trying to build somewhat interesting or subversive decks in NBN, because any strategy that doesn't have like feature tags heavily basically is a non-starter, because it means you need to import all of your ice. Because NBN ice basically gives tags and doesn't do anything else. So this one doesn't do that. This one is just a 5 cost, 5 strength. That's a great ratio. It's going to be very taxing. 2 subs, not so many. And it says end the run unless the runner plays 3, end the run unless the runner plays 3. So if we're thinking of the standard as being like Grubber, it's 4 for strength, 2 for subs. So 6 total to fully break this barrier. Wow, that's not even better than just paying through the subs, and paying through the subs kind of stinks. Now it does have text. If you raise this ice on a central server, take a bad pub, which is quite limiting. Basically, I think this is so that like you couldn't justify running this in Nebula, where it would be excellent. Finding a slot for barriers in Nebula is a nightmare. Ping is, it turns out, ping is not especially resilient, or if you're planning on actually, icing up your centrals. So it's kind of weird in that it's 4 remote servers, but like the best NBNs are like kind of care more about centrals. So yeah, it's taxing, it's expensive, it's a bit limited. The rate is great. 5 strength is a lot of strength, but not so great. I think the only saving grace is that this is it just says end the run in Nebula, sorry, in NBN, and that's worth something. I don't know what deck actually wants this. It probably doesn't exist in my mind right now, but maybe it will. I think the rate is good enough that I could imagine seeing this in some like pretty decent scoring NBN, but because it's not in the front of my mind, because it has this limitation of you have to take bad pub, which you probably don't want to take, outside of Editorial Division, where it's like, this is good, but then if you've taken 3 bad pub, then this is actually not that expensive to go through. Like, it's an awkward one, surprisingly. I think it's good, not great. It's going to be 3 stars from me. People will find a use for it. Like, it's a type of ice that NBN has been needing, but it doesn't. Yeah, I don't think it's so good that it like makes anything work that wasn't going to work before, if that makes sense. Lethe Live is a massive sentry. It's I don't know why sentries give all the big ice are sentries. Give some big other things maybe. 9 to res. Holy, this better have some kind of rebate on it, right? Whenever the runner bypasses or fully breaks this ice, give them a tag. Strange text. Very useful in some ways, because one of the problems with running the other enormous sentries that NBN has had is that people just put 5/7 Mentangler on them and then they just turn off. And this one is slightly good against 5/7 Mentangler because it gives them 1 tag. Snake would give them 2 tags, by the way. And it's got 2 beautiful subroutines, 6 strength, 2 beautiful subroutines. One of them is you may add 1 card from archives to the top or bottom of R&D. Okay, so that is something like putting your Oppo back on top of R&D. Okay, or like even your Behold, and then you just say don't touch that. Okay, yes. Or add an installed runner card to the grip. Which is a cost if they're running expensive cards that they really don't want to have to reinstall. Maybe their MU is full and you could put their lily pad back into their hand, just like a crazy hit. Or like you can return their twinning to their hand and remove all the counters that were on it. Corp gets to pick, so it's a good sub, but man, is this a lot of money to pay for 2 subs, which are like good, not great. This is an absurd sum. It will never pay itself off. Like even tier, if you res tier, you get at least a couple of clicks back, or a couple. If you fire, you get a couple credits back off the trash. You can bypass tier, but oof, this just doesn't do anything, right? Like this is super, super bad. This is a 1-star card. I don't even think people are going to experiment too much with this. Probably the reason it's so bad is that like it would be pretty good on Nebula R&D because you would either have like if you're letting the top one fire, you can always put something on top of your R&D, so it's never agenda stealable. So you just have to either take the tag or let something be returned to your hand. But like it's a 9 cost. Like the take if you just read the thing as being like take a tag, it's not that much more taxing than Funhouse, which costs 4 less and only has like two less strength. Um, you can let this fully fire and it's like not that big of a deal either because you don't take the tag if you fully fire it. So if you just face check this, uh, in the early game, one thing comes back to your hand. If you don't have anything installed, uh, yeah, it's not good. This card is just garbage. Really super bad. Paywall. People were super excited by this one. People seemed really high on it, even though it is way worse than Ping, I think. It costs 1, which is less than Ping, but not by much. It's a barrier like Ping. It's got 1 strength like Ping. But rather than giving them a tag when you res it, which is like awesome and extremely taxing and annoying, when you encounter it, they lose 1, and then the end of run is not as good as Ping's end of run. It says end of run unless the runner pays 1. So, what to compare this to? Well, I'm not going to talk too much about GameNet, which is this is kind of a card for because this does not fix GameNet's problems. I don't even think you run it in GameNet because it is so much not like a slow card. This is a card for like really asset spammy decks, I think. But also not even for those because you want like asset spam benefits a lot if they can force the runner to install their breakers before interacting with their assets. Because if you think about what ping requires, if you're running 3 pings like Epiphany does, ping not only requires that you like take a tag and spend 1 to break it, it also requires that you draw and play your Kurapira or something, which costs you a click to draw, a click to play it, and 3 credits. Paywall does not ask this of you at all. Paywall just asks that you pay 2 to go through it. It costs 1 less, but I don't really think that matters. It doesn't have the super powerful text of like you can't run late in your turn like Ping does. So the only case I would ever see running Paywall is a deck that's already running 3 pings because everything that you could possibly want Paywall to do, Ping does better. And at that point, are you running 6 copies of a 1 strength barrier in your deck? Probably not. Another thing you could compare this to is like Kessler Void, which is a good card. It also costs 2 to go through and costs 1 more to res. But Kessler Void has a way better face check because it actually protects your early assets, which is useful. It has text that can't be destroyed, which is pretty useful. Yeah, Paywall just stinks. It's 1 influence, but that doesn't matter. I don't think you play it anywhere else. I don't know why people think this is so good or so useful, because it's, to me, I just have to compare it to Ping and it's so much worse. So yeah, it's 1 star. I don't even think it's going to see that much experimentation because it is so naturally cuttable from a lot of the decks that would try it. So yeah, I don't believe in it. Here we go. Yes, this is my card. This is Flood the Market. This is my favorite card to be playing with so far, except for maybe the train agenda from HB, which, oh, thank God for that. But in conjunction with train from HB, we have Flood the Market. It's 3 cost operation. It's a double, so it takes 2 clicks to play. You choose an installed card and you place an advancement counter on that card for each remote server that has a card in its root and is protected by ice. Oh. Okay, so if you think about Fully Op being like a crazy good card for economy, this takes the Fully Op like demand and turns it from economy into actually winning the game. And it's been very difficult in the elevation meta to turn a big board into winning the game. Mirror Morph was kind of able to do it because they had weird click gaining things on their ID. Pretty cool. Footgun PD was able to do it a little bit by running loads of cards that also cheated clicks. But those decks came at the cost of some amount of consistency. The agenda suites were not that good. The agenda suites have gotten a lot better now. And this card basically says the huge amount of slots that you were dedicating to doing those weird tricks to get agendas scored, you can ignore all that. Don't worry about it. This card takes care of everything. You don't need to run moon pools in your poetry decks anymore. You don't need to run Bass Chiraboga in your foot guns anymore. Flood the Market will simply look at your big board and say, you're beautiful just the way you are. You can turn that into money with Fully Op, or you can turn that into scoring out with Flood the Market. I think this is potent. This can fast advance out 5 pointers if you want to. You would need 5. You would need 4 servers with protected by ice and a spare piece of ice, which is a lot. And the runner can interact with that, which I like. They can run through your ice, get into the servers, trash the thing. You have to fill it up before you can fast advance out more 5/3s. But I think this card, I think that's pretty difficult to do if you're running the right ice suites and you're running agendas that are somewhat hard to trash. I think this allows for intensely creative deck building. I think it allows for entirely like archetypes that I wanted to play but just didn't have easy win conditions. This is a win condition. I love that it's 3 influence. So you could feasibly run multiple copies of them outside of NBN. So exciting. Decks that I would consider running this in. Actually, not NBN. I don't really think NBN needs this very much. Maybe you could run it in Epiphany, but actually that deck does something a little bit different than Flooding the Market, I feel. You could probably try it for sure. And I'm sure there will be good Epiphany decks that flood the market, but my 3 top picks for this one, don't mistake this as 3 stars, this is a 5-star card, 100% a 5-star card, 10-star card in my opinion. So yeah, this is a 5-star card. I pick it to be really good in PD, obviously, I want to say, because PD is so svelte. It can spend influence and see it more often because it has a smaller deck size. And once you score the agenda with Flood, you can pull it back. So you actually don't even need 3 floods. You'll probably see it if you just run 2 floods, and you can just pull it back and just keep going. Number 2 pick is a bit subversive, but it's poetry. Everyone thinks poetry is so bad. I've seen so many people give their honest takes about poetry, which involve things like, it can never work. It's just too awkward. It gives away too much. It's not powerful. It's not sports medal. It's not sports medal. Okay, it's not sports medal. Flood the Market basically fixes half the problems that poetry had. The new agendas that they got fixes the other half of problems that poetry has. I think poetry is good now. I think poetry is excellent now with Flood. And third pick, sleeper pick, Alco could probably flood the market because that deck runs a lot of assets and runs a lot of small ice and likes having fast ways to score things out. So I think all 3 of those would be really interesting and fun decks to try. I'm so looking forward to experimenting, seeing what's best. This is a big deal. I love it. What a cool card. Yeah, 5 stars on all fronts. Fantastic. Scapegoat is a 0-cost grey ops operation, so it's got the word on it. It means you can fetch it with Editorial Division. And it says, resolve one of the following with the runner's choice. Remove 2 bad pub, or choose a runner card that the runner has to shuffle into their deck. Removing bad pub's a bit weird to me because it's like, what's the point of doing this? Like, not mechanically it's strong to remove bad pub because bad pub is like game losingly bad to have, but like, are we really just printing bad pub and then removing it all the time so the runner can't even play with the card, like the effects that you're doing? Or what's the point of this keyword of removing the mechanic? But fortunately they've given you an out which the runner can choose the shuffle, and I think my prediction is you should usually choose the shuffle if they're going to remove 2 bad pub with this, like unless they're threatening something strong at the same time where you need your breaker. And like you don't have a spare one, which is the right time to play Scapegoat. But if they just play it, just like throw it out because they've gained a bit of bad pub here and there, just take the shuffle. 2 bad pub is going to be worth more than pretty much any card you could possibly shuffle into the stack. You'll find that card again, it's fine. Yeah, I mean, you just like have to run this in Editorial Division, otherwise you just lose. You just drown under your own bad pub. They can run for free forever and you won't do anything. But you probably only run it as a one-off because you can fetch it when you need it. And I don't think Editorial Division is going to be that good. So I'm going to give it 3 stars along with Editorial Division because you put it in that deck and you kind of need it to make it work, but it doesn't impress me too much. I think you should, because people can pick the shuffle, it's a lot worse than it looks like it is. Hype Machine. Very interesting card here. 6 to res. Wow. 2 to trash. Okay. If an agenda was scored or stolen this turn, the res cost is actually 0. Okay, that makes a lot more sense. You're very rarely going to be paying 6 for this, but having it as an option is quite nice. And you can trash it to place an advancement counter on a card you can advance in the route of the server. Ooh, it's spicy text. It is. This is a reimagining of an older card, which I forget the name, that costs 3, which basically did the same thing, except didn't have the cool like cost reduction text. The cool cost reduction text might be the most important part because this could be an ob card, which it fills my heart with sorrow to say. I don't want to make too many calls about what ob does and doesn't want. The targets for this and ob, which are more obvious to me, are like envelopment and hostile architecture, low-key. But it's 3 influence, and ob is really tight on influence. This is a 0 cost hostile architecture, which is absolutely cruel. But ob can do lots of cruel things. I never have any idea what cruel things ends up being good in that monster. So that's someone else's job to figure that out. I'm not going to factor it too much into my decision making. It's a little awkward that it costs 2 to trash, because that's quite trashable both on board and from centrals. It could totally work in like combos where you score multiple things in a turn. It could work with things like Lotus Haze to move it around and just like have that advancement be a fast advanced option. It could work in like HB decks that want to score lots of their really good at like fast agendas. Yes, lots of things you could do with Hype Machine. I'm not sure if any of them are obviously like absurdly good to me, but it seems useful. And for being a useful card, I'm going to rate it at least 3 stars. I think it's decent. I don't know exactly where it belongs. I'm not sure if ob is like needs to be considered too strongly here. But yeah, ban ob, and this becomes like I'll start talking about this effect more favorably. But yeah, this scares me a little bit because of that. And that's it for NBN. Some scary stuff here. I think Editorial Division is going to kill you for sure. But it's not going to kill me because I'm not going to interact with it. I think it's probably not that good. I think the opportunities for counterplay are pretty varied. I think Epiphany got a card, which is Magistrate, which is going to be really good and might make the deck like pretty tough if you're not a class that can beat it. Flood the Market fills my heart with joy. I'm so excited to play it. You bet you're going to see videos about it. You bet it's going to be in discussion for like one of the best decks, because I think that is such a strong win condition. Fast advancing out a 3-pointer for 3 credits is crazy. We spend 17 for that with Big Deal, 18 because you got to advance the damn thing. And Flood the Market is doing it for 3 and can't be trashed. Mwah! So good. Don't really believe in any of the ice here. Lethe is just abysmal. Nihilo Agent, people seem to like it more than I do. I think it doesn't do anything. Scapegoat is going to be important for Editorial Division, but I doubt you're going to see it anywhere else. Maybe you can bring it into like other Wayland bad pub decks, because I've seen that those might be a thing. They have things like regulatory capture. Also, you don't really want to remove too much of your bad pub there, so like I'm not sure if that's where you want to spend your influence. And Witch Hunt, I think, is really good if it gets scored, but it's so bad if it gets stolen at the wrong time that I think you just have to start cutting them, because the swing of just the runner grabbing one early and you losing the game is too intense. Hype Machine's a question mark, but I'm going to say it's like pretty good. Yeah, I don't think there's anything here that makes me like thrilled to play NBN, but if you already like playing NBN before, they've got some okay stuff, so you can keep doing that. If you're a sicko who likes killing people, Editorial Division will be your jam. But I am more looking forward to taking exactly Flood the Market, pulling it outside of NBN, and playing it elsewhere. And yeah, that's it for NBN. I'll see you in the next one, which is Wayland, which will not be the last one, because I'm also going to do one for neutrals and like an overview. See that.